I thought my toughest battles ended when I left the military. But I was wrong. After 30 years of service, I had saved every penny for just one dream: peace in the mountains, away from chaos. At an auction, I finally won the house I had prayed for, a quiet wooden cabin tucked against the pines with a view of endless skies. But when I opened the door for the very first time, I was greeted not by the scent of cedar walls or silence, but by loud music echoing through my supposed property. And sitting on my couch was a woman who had no business being there. Her name was Karen. And soon she would turn my dream retreat into a nightmare battle over lies, race, and power. And my name is Edward Franklin. For 3 decades I stood on foreign soil, battling enemies, carrying burdens, and protecting freedoms that most take for granted. In return, I never built a family, never owned a house, never collected luxuries. What I wanted was simple: peace. When it was finally time to hang up my uniform, the mountain cabin had been listed at a foreclosure auction. From the first moment I saw it in the catalog, I knew it belonged in the life I'd always dreamed about. Quiet streets, no city chokehold, no noise but the sounds of wind and birds. I pressed my life savings onto the table. It wasn't just an investment. It was my retirement. My stability. My sanctuary. I went through all the formalities, signed documents, stamped seals, notarized titles. The mountain house was legally and rightfully mine. And after years of sacrifice, I finally felt the sense of belonging I thought I'd forfeited in combat. But the first trip to the property shifted something inside me. The cabin shutters hung loose, and yet I could see curtains moving inside. A stereo thumped from the living room. When I pushed open the door, my heart froze. A woman in her 50s, blonde hair tied back, lounging on the couch like she owned it. When I told her this was my property, all she did was laugh. She said the community HOA recognized her as the rightful owner. And if I wanted her gone, I'd have to prove it in court. The weeks that followed became a battlefield unlike any I'd faced before. But the enemy wasn't an army. It was bureaucracy, prejudice, and one relentless woman named Karen. She squatted in my property for 4 whole weeks, parading herself as though she had every right to be there. When I tried reasoning, she weaponized every ounce of the so-called community standards. With the HOA on her side, she began filing complaints alleging I never purchased the property legally. She claimed I wasn't fit for the neighborhood. It didn't take long before I realized what tied into her hostility. I was an outsider in every sense to that mountain community. In Karen's eyes, I wasn't someone who belonged there. To her, I was a threat to the purity of her idyllic neighborhood. I had faced racism before. It lurked silently in jokes, in glares, in the division of lines people swore up and down didn't exist. But this time it was raw, direct, and dripping off every move she made. Karen went as far as producing a fake deed, stamped with counterfeit signatures and dates. She turned neighbors against me by claiming I had manipulated the auction process, whispering lies loud enough for half the town to hear. The HOA board, stacked with her friends, entertained her lies instead of sweeping them aside. There I was, sleeping in my truck in the driveway of a home I technically owned outright, while an intruder lived inside it rent-free. Imagine spending 30 years eating rations, choking on desert dust, risking your limbs, and then watching the home you bled for be taken by paperwork and prejudice. Every morning, I awoke to her triumphant smirk in the window. Every night, to her blaring music. She wanted me broken. She wanted me angry. She wanted me gone. But I had not survived 3 decades of war to lose to someone like her. The battle came to a head in the county courthouse. By then, weeks of legal chaos had left me drained. Karen walked in dressed like she owned the world, holding her fabricated deed as if it were scripture. Members of the HOA filled the benches behind her, their eyes burning with unspoken support. When the judge called on her, she spun a story dripping with conviction. She claimed she had been the rightful owner all along. She painted me as a schemer, an intruder plotting to steal her property. And for a moment, I saw hesitation flicker in the courtroom. But I was ready. In my hand, I carried not only the notarized auction records but also security camera footage from the courthouse itself, time-stamped on the day I signed the documents. The real signatures. The official seals. Everything Karen lacked. One by one, her lies began crumbling. Her deed contained impossible dates. Her supposed witnesses could not be found. Her accusations against me contradicted verified evidence. Still, even as the walls around her collapsed, she spat venom. Instead of shame, she clung to rage. She sneered that people like me didn't deserve a place among her community. In that final, tense silence as the judge shuffled papers, all the soldiers' battles, all the nights I spent yearning for peace, rushed back to me. This was more than papers and signatures. It was the fight for my right to exist with dignity. When the judge finally declared her claims fraudulent, his gavel cracked like a gunshot through decades of silence. Karen was ordered out of the home immediately, fined for her deception, and banned from serving on the HOA. The day I moved into my mountain cabin, it no longer felt just like a house. It felt like vindication. My living room was no longer tainted by her presence. It was mine, reclaimed. But winning didn't erase the truth, it highlighted it. Karen wasn't just one woman squatting in a cabin she didn't own. She was a reflection of the privilege that allows some people to bend rules, manipulate systems, and try to erase others. For weeks, she had twisted the narrative to portray me as a trespasser in my own home, all because she believed her word carried more weight than mine ever could. The scars of my years in service had prepared me for loneliness, exhaustion, and fear. But nothing prepared me for the reality that, even here at home, the uniform I once wore wouldn't shield me from systemic prejudice. Now, when I sit on the porch and watch the sun set behind the peaks, I think about all the veterans who never found peace. I think about all the people whose voices never carry the same authority in rooms where truth should be enough. And I wonder, how many battles must we fight, even after returning from war, just to prove that we belong in a home we already earned? Because at the end of the day, the question isn't just about one cabin in the mountains. It's about something far bigger. When will this country stop allowing people like Karen to weaponize lies, bias, and entitlement to strip others of what's rightfully theirs?